Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. I'm Amy Shannon, but you can call me Amy. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome, and I hope all is well with you. And you should always know that my heart is with you. This is the third Sunday of the month, so that only means one thing, at least here, that it is Poetry Corner. Today, I will be sharing some of my favorite sonnets from Shakespeare. William Shakespeare. Um, he is one of my favorites. I love his sonnets. I love his tragedies. One of my favorites of his is Macbeth. Um, Ever since I read it in, I think it was 10th grade English class, I was always just drawn into Shakespeare. Of course, we had to read Macbeth and, we had to read Romeo and Juliet. And there's a lot of his works that are maybe not as famous as the others, but um, and I don't even know if they even share Shakespeare anymore in high school. Um, it's been a long time since I was in high school. Some people they're like, why doesn't he speak English? It's old English, and also that this is way back, and it was just uh, he wrote at a time that was basically ahead of his time. He was sharing his work. They created plays, and um, the plays were entertainment for the the rich, um, and it's like today's version of going to the movies or going to a concert. But Shakespeare, uh, yes, he wrote, excuse me, in many different ways. Um, his words are poetic. His stories that he tells, his tragedies, they are brought to life, and he uses metaphors and imagery and other literary alliterations that kind of just make it sound beautiful even when someone is dying. So I'm not going on the dying bit. I'm not going to start talking about Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet or Macbeth. I want to, for this particular um, episode, I want to focus on some of my favorites of his sonnets. I'm not going to read them in order. I just kind of printed them out from, I have the complete works of um, Shakespeare, but I've printed out my favorite of his sonnets so far. Um, and I've read every single one probably more than once. Anyway, I'm going to start with Sonnet 33. Full many a glorious morning I have seen. For full many a glorious morning I have seen, flatter the mountain tops with sovereign eye, kissing the golden face of the meadows green, gilding pale streams with heavenly alchemy. Anon permit basest cloud to ride, with ugly wrack on his celestial face, and from the forlorn world his visage hide, stealing unseen to west with his disgrace. Even so my sun one early morn did shine, with all triumph splendor on my brow. But out, alack, he was but 1 hour mine. The raging cloud hath masked him from me now. Yet him for this my love no whit disdain. Sons of the world may stain while heaven's sun staineth. So it's basically, the sunrise and the clouds are hiding, and but the way he describes it, it's almost as you're right there. So my next favorite sonnet, and is who will believe in my verse in time to come? Who will believe my verse in time to come? If it were filled with your most high deserts. For yet heaven knows it is but as a tomb which hides your light and shows not half your parts. If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say this poet lies. Such heavenly touches ne'er touched earthly faces. So should my papers, yellowed with their age, be scorned like old men of less truth than tongue, and your truth rights be termed a poet's rage, and stretched meter of an antique song. But were some child of yours alive that time, you should live twice in it and in my rhyme. So let me let you think about that just for a moment. And, you know, you don't have to buy a Shakespeare book. You can. Um, if you are interested in sonnets and beautiful poems, you could find them on the internet. You could find them, you know, Amazon does a lot of reprints of classic books, and sometimes they put them on Kindle, and they're either free or 99 cents, and you can get some great classic books from them. Another place I like to look for books are secondhand stores, thrift shops, things, garage sales, things like that. You you would not imagine the books that people will just give away for almost nothing. And that's where I do part of my scouring. So the next sonnet I'm going to read is sonnet number 10. For shame deny that thou bear'st love to any. For shame deny that but thou bear'st love to any. For who thyself art so unprovident, grant, if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many. But that is thou none lovest is most evident. For thou art so possessed with murderous hate, that gainst thyself thou strickest not to conspire, seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate, which to repair should be thy chief desire. Oh, change thy thought, that I may change my mind. Shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love? Be, as thy presence is, gracious and kind, or to thyself at least kind-hearted prove. Make thee another self for love of me, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. And then I'm going to move on to Sonnet 13. Oh, that you were yourself, but love you are. No longer yours than you yourself live, or here live. Against this coming end, you should prepare, and your sweet semblance to give to some other give, so that beauty, which you hold in least, find no determination than you were yourself again after yourself's decease. When your sweet issue, your sweet form should bear, who let so fair a house fall to decay, which husbandry and honor might uphold against the stormy gusts of the winter's day and barren rage of death's eternal cold. Oh, none but unthrifts, dear my love, you know you had a father, let your son say so. The beauty of Shakespeare is that you can feel the passion in the words, and if you think about it, you can figure out what exactly he is trying to say, what words he is using. Obviously, thee and thou, you and me, and art means are, you know. So the last sonnet I'm going to read is probably something that you are familiar with. It's probably one of his most popular sonnets, Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So those are my favorite Shakespeare sonnets. If you are a fan of Shakespeare, let me know. I'd love to know that. I mean, you know, I don't really run into too many people that say, "Oh yes, I love Shakespeare. I could sit there and read him all the time." I reread and read him when I can. Um, I do have a lot of books that I have to read and stories I have to read and things I have to share, but I still try to make time for, my simple pleasures in life, reading, um, work that makes me feel something. Um, and so many times I have found that in your in authors that send me their work, I find so many hidden gems, whether it's poetry or um, short stories or fiction in various amounts of genres. Um, anyway, um, this has been um, a very heartfelt, it's coming from my heart because I love Shakespeare and his work. And I tell you, there was a time when I was looking at a book and it was like Shakespeare in regular English. And I was like, what? It was like somebody translated Shakespeare into a book and said, okay, this is Shakespeare, um, but not really. So basically, they just transcribe the words into something that they think that it might make it more easier to understand. But I think if you sit back and you think about the words when you are saying them or reading them or listening to them, you you get it, you understand. So if you're a poet and you want your poems to be featured on Amy's Bookshelf Reviews Poetry Corner, go to the website Amy's Bookshelf Reviews .com/podcast for more information. Feel free to subscribe to my website where you will get all the great email campaigns and blog posts about authors, their books, and my recommendations. You might be just as lucky as I am to find that hidden gem that keeps you reading work of your new favorite author. Be well and be safe. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next week. This has been Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Thank you for listening. And always, be kind and stay safe. Thank you.